Welcome to another video. Today's video is going to go over 1-4, number 2. So you should have these notes out in front of you. If you have questions at all, please ask me. And again, as I write things down, I want you to write things down as well. Here we go. Our last video, 1-4, number 1, we talked about dividing whole numbers and using long division. We are going to continue that. So I'm going to move a little faster in this video, but today we are going to be dividing dividing decimals. Okay, so this is where we're trying to get to, which is dividing decimals, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So dividing decimals right here, when the dividend, okay, remember that's the thing that's inside the house, is a decimal, when the dividend is a decimal, you can follow the rules for dividing whole numbers. So it's going to be the exact same thing. We're just going to have one little extra thing, that is the decimal. However, right here, remember to keep your place values organized and bring the decimal straight up into the answer. Now, when we talk about the answer for a division problem, we talk about what's called the quotient. That is the answer to a division problem. Okay, so when we have our decimal, we're going to bring it straight up into our quotient or answer. So practice dividing the values below. Use the grid to keep your place values organized. Okay, so our first number here, that is the dividend. So that is going to go into our house. Okay, and I'm going to put the decimal on the line just because in problem number two, you're going to run out of room. So I'm going to put the number right here on the line. The second number, the 8, is going to be our divisor. So that goes outside of our house. Okay, so we have 97.6. I don't know why I wrote an 8 there. If you wrote an 8 there, ignore it and write a 6 because I accidentally was looking at the 8. So 97.6 divided by 8. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our divisor and we're going to see how many times it goes into our first number. So how many times can 8 go into 9? Once. If we say twice, it's 16. That's more than 9. That doesn't work. Okay, so 8 goes into 9 once. We multiply the 1 times 8, which is 8, and then we subtract. And 9 minus 8 gives us 1. Once we're done subtracting, we bring our number down. We're going to bring the 7 down right next to the 1 like this. And now we want to see how many times 8 can go into 17. Well, 1 8 is 8. 2 8s is 16, and that works. So 2 8s go into 16. Okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to subtract 17 minus 16, and we get 1. Now we're going to drop down our 6, just like we have been, okay? Which puts our 6, right here. Okay? Now, in our answer, what we're going to do with our decimal is we're going to bring it straight up. We're not going to move it. We're not going to do anything. We want to bring it straight up into our answer or the quotient. So that decimal goes straight up and is right next to the 2. Okay? Once we do that, we can figure out how many times 8 goes into 16. 1 8 is 8. 2 8s is 16, and that's perfect. So 8 goes into 16 2 times. We multiply 2 times 8. Now we subtract 16 minus 16 gives us 0, and that is a perfect answer. Our answer for number 1, 12.2. And again, remember when we have a decimal, we just bring it straight up. Okay? All right, let's look at number 2 here. 720.5 divided by 5. So this first number is going to be our dividend, 720. I'm going to put the decimal right on the line here. 0.5. The second number is going to be our divisor, which goes right on the outside. Okay? We're going to follow the exact same rules as what we did on the first problem and what we did in our last video. We want to see how many times 5 can go into 7. Well, 1 5 is 5. 2 5s is 10. That goes over. So we can only go into 7 once because remember, we cannot go over that number. So 1 times 5 is 5. We're going to subtract this. 7 minus 5 gives us 2. Okay? We're going to move to our next number in our dividend, and we're going to drop it down. We're going to drop down to 2. So now how many times does 5 go into 22? Well, 1 5 is 5, 10, 15, 20. And if we do 5 5s, that's 25. So we can't do 5 5s. So we're going to say that 5 goes into 22 4 times. Okay? A simple way to do that is just count up. Go 5, 10, 15, 20, and when you go over it, it's 1 less than that. So if we get to 5 5s, which is 25s, 1 less than that is 4 5s. So 4 times 5 is 20. Now what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 22 minus 20. So 2 minus 0 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So we get 2. 22 minus 20 is 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop down this 0 right here. Okay? So I'm going to erase this first 0 just to avoid some confusion. So now what we need to do is how many times can 5 go into 20? Well, we just figured that out. 5, 10, 15, 20. 5 goes into 20 4 times, just like this. So 4 times 5 is 20. We subtract them. 20 minus 20 gives us 0. Now we're going to run out of room here, but that's okay. We're going to take our decimal because we've made it to the decimal. We're going to take our decimal. We're going to bring it straight up, just like that. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to drop down our 5 right here. And we need to see how many times 5 goes into 5. Well, 1 5 is 5. So 5 goes into 5 1 time. We multiply 1 times 5. And we ran out of room here, so just write it underneath. We're going to subtract 5 minus 5, and that gives us 0. So our answer, 144.1. Remember, when we have our decimal, we bring it straight up. What I want you to do now is I want you to try number 3 on your own. You're going to type it into the answer box. Go. All right, number 3, 42.6 divided by 3. 42.6 is our dividend, so that's going to go inside the house. The 3 is our divisor, so that goes outside the house. We're going to see how many times 3 can go into 4. That's 1. 1 times 3 is 3. We subtract them. We get 1. We drop down our 2 to get 12. How many times can 3 go into 12? Well, 3, 6, 9, 12. We subtract 12 minus 12, and we get 0. So we're at 14. We get to our decimal. Remember, we bring it straight up, and we put our decimal right here. Okay, we drop down our 6. How many times can 3 go into 6? That's 2. We multiply 2 times 3, then we subtract them, and we get 0. So your answer should be 14.2. All right, let's move on to number 4. All right, now our next set of examples is going to be a little bit funky, but that's okay. Number 4, 190 divided by 4. We're going to take up our first number, which is 190. Let me change my color to blue here. We're going to make that the dividend because remember, the first number is our dividend. The second number is our divisor, and that goes outside of the house. So we have 190 divided by 4. So let's just follow the same rules we've been following. How many times can 4 go into 1? Well, we can't do that. Whoops, let me change my color here. We can't do 4 into 1 because 4 is bigger than 1. So we're going to bump over to our next number. How many times can 4 go into 19? Well, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So we have to go back 1. 4 goes into 19 4 times. Remember, we can't go over. So 4 times 4 is 16. We're going to subtract them, and we get 3. Okay? So we're going to drop down our 0. How many times can 4 go into 30? Well, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. That's 5. 24 is 6. 28 is 7. 32 is 8. So we got to go back 1 to 7. So 4 can go into 30 7 times. And 7 times 4 gives us 28. So let's subtract these two numbers. 30 minus 28. Well, 0 minus 8 we can't do, so we have to borrow. So we take 1 away. We add a 1 in front of the 0. 10 minus 8 gives us 2. 2 minus 2 gives us 0. I'm not going to write anything there because it's 0. Now, here's where things are different. If we look at our first examples, whenever we finished with the last number right here, you can see my red mark, we always ended with a 0. What that means is we have no more numbers and we're done. Okay, once we subtract and we get 0, we're done. If we look at number 4, when we subtracted our last number here, did we get a 0? No, we got a 2. So if you divide numbers and you get a number that is not 0, here's what you're going to do. Again, I'm going to repeat that. If you are dividing numbers and you're all the way done to your last number, okay, you've divided it, and you don't get a 0 when you subtract, right here, like we got a 2. Here's what we're going to do. In the dividend inside of the house, what we're going to do after the last number, we're going to put a decimal. So again, we got 2 here. After the last number, we're going to put a decimal. Okay? Now we need to put a placeholder. So we put our decimal after the last number. Our placeholder is going to go right after the decimal, which is a 0. Okay? Once we do that, once we've put our decimal and we've put our 0, we can drop down our 0 and we can do our normal division practice. So we drop down our 0. Our new number is 20. So let's figure out how many times 4 can go into 20. And because we put a decimal here, we have to bring it straight up into our answer. Because we put a decimal there, we have to put it in our answer right here. Okay? How many times can 4 go into 20? Well, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. 5 times. We multiply 5 times 4. We get 20. We subtract them. And we get 0 as our answer for that. Once you get 0, and it's the last number, you're done. We have our quotient. We have our answer. So our answer, because we're done, 47.5. Okay, so again, if you don't get 0 like we did here, you have to add a decimal, bring it up into your answer, and then put in a placeholder, a 0. Okay, let's try example number 5. Okay, number 5, I'm sorry. Our dividend is our first number, so 249. Our divisor is 2. So let's just follow our normal division rules. So 2 goes into 2 one time. We go 1 times 2, which is 2, and then we subtract. 2 minus 2 gives us 0. Now, we're not done yet because we haven't got to our last number. Even though we got 0, we're not done yet. We got to drop down our 4. How many times can 2 go into 4? 2, 4, so twice. So here, we're going to write 2. 2 times 2 gives us 4. We're going to subtract them, and we get 0. Again, we're not done yet because we still have a 9 to deal with. We're going to drop down our 9. How many times can 2 go into 9? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we got to take 1 away. 8. So we go 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Now let's subtract. 9 minus 8 gives us 1. Now we have no more numbers left, and we have a 1. So what we have to do is we have to put our decimal after our last number. We're going to bring that up into our answer, and we're going to put a 0 as the placeholder. We drop down our 0 just like our normal addition rules. Okay, remember, don't forget to put our decimal and then move it up into our quotient, our answer. How many times now can 2 go into 10? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 5 times. 5 times 2 gives us 10. We kind of ran out of room here. That's okay. Then we subtract 10 minus 10 gives us 0. So our answer for number 5 is 124.5. What I want you to do is use what we did on these two examples to find the answer for number 6 and then type it in the box. Go. All right, number 6, 75 is our dividend. So that goes inside of the house. The 6 is the divisor, so it goes outside the house. We see how many times 6 can go into 7. That's once. We multiply 1 times 6, we get 6. We subtract, we get 1. Now we drop down our 5. How many times can 6 go into 15? That's only twice because we don't want to go over 15. So we subtract 15 minus 12. We get 3. And then we're done with our numbers. So we have to make our decimal. We bring it straight up into our answer. And then we put our 0 as our placeholder. Okay? We drop down our 0. We get 30. How many times can 6 go into 30? That's 5 times. We subtract 30. And we end up with 0. So our answer for number 6, 12.5. All right, go ahead and start working on the second worksheet, 1-4, number 2, and please ask if you need any help. Go. Good luck.